Meanwhile, at Manage Comics. Coming to you from a secret underground lair, these dedicated heroes discuss the business of comics, industry news, hobby store retail issues, and the latest developments from Manage Comics. They are promoters of comics, champions of small business, and four-color heroes. They are the Manage Comics team.
Hey folks, welcome to Meanwhile at Manage Comics. And this week we're going to talk a little bit about my Chicago road trip, which happened back in June. It was around June 17th to 21st. It wasn't even around, it was exactly. And during that time, I visited a whole ton of different stores in the Chicago area, including some outside of Chicago in upstate Michigan. So there was Rocket Comics in Kalamazoo, did a little wrestling, did a little sightseeing. There was Challengers, of course. There was Graham Crackers in the Loop, G-Mark Comics, Zombie Unicorn, Dark Tower, Alley Cat, Chicago Comics, and Fanfare, and then Vault of Midnight, which is in Ann Arbor, Michigan. So we're going to talk about all those shops. And I'll give you a little rundown of, some cool stuff about each one of them. And why don't we kick it off with a little video I've created just to show you what I did on my summer vacation. It wasn't summer vacation, it was just a little trip.
So what is the purpose of your tour? You're on a little tour, a road trip, a Managed Comics road trip?
Yeah, I mean, straight up, I came to see you guys.
Yeah.
But I also did, I've done about 7 stores so far. I'm doing a lot of Upper Michigan and Detroit area. But yeah, my number one reason was come pick up my comics from Challengers.
Yeah. They've been sitting in a box in the back for, I think, literally a year.
Yeah. So yeah, that was my little Chicago road trip. I'm gonna go down kind of everything that I saw in all the shops. So we'll kind of take them step by step, and I'll give you kind of some of my feelings about the individual shops and what I thought of them, and maybe we'll talk about my experience with the Challengers guys. So as you saw, on the Saturday night, I got there and we went to AEW Collision, which was like the first episode of this new TV series. And then Sunday, I went over to their shop and spent a couple, three, I think about 3 or 4 hours with them. Dal gave me a list of of things to improve on Managed Comics, which I really appreciate. I can't say this clear enough to all of you that I love your recommendations and your suggestions. I love, as weird as this is to say, but I love bug reports because it lets us know, one, that people are using the system, and two, how you're using them. I think one of the biggest testaments to that I know people are using the system is earlier this week we had a slight little hiccup that happened because one of Shopify's JavaScript APIs just stopped responding, and it was only for like 20 minutes. But what that meant was like all the JavaScript sorting was really weird, and man, like I knew within 5 minutes that there were problems. So yeah, I definitely know that folks are using it, and that kind of makes my heart swell with pride. It also makes me panic when something that I can't control, like a JavaScript library, suddenly goes sideways. But we live and we learn, and as we've every time that we've had an outage, it's been kind of like a vaccination. So back when we had we had a SSL certificate that went down a couple months ago. So we repaired that by buying a 5-year SSL certificate. Now we're still going to have to renew that every year, but it's a lot better than the certificate that we had before that was needing to be renewed every 3 months. Yeah, so all these things are just little things that make us more stable. One of the big things, back in the fall of last year, we had a major outage where the entire site went down like overnight. So we installed monitoring software that lets us know, and if things go really, really sideways, my phone will literally go off, because if it gets 3 messages in a row very quickly, it'll even wake itself out of sleep mode. So those are nice things to happen because we've had those. So yeah, as you find bugs, or not even necessarily bugs, just things that don't work the way that you think they should, let us know and we'll work on them. Natalia's back from vacation on Monday, and she's got a whole host of cool things to work on. And then I'm actually off on vacation as you read this. So Natalia has already been hard at work for 3 days, but I'm just at a cottage up in Bayfield, Ontario. So yeah, I'll be around. Yeah, let's chat about some of the shops that I went to. So Rocket Comics and Toys and Collectibles. It was funny because when I was kind of planning my route, I was looking at Battle Creek, Michigan, and Kalamazoo, Michigan, as kind of a good place to stop. That is about 3.5 hours away from London, so it was a good kind of halfway mark, closer to 4 hours. But it would be a great place to land for lunch. So I thought, okay, Kalamazoo is a little bit further. Maybe Battle Creek would be a better choice. But then when I did some googling, I found that Rocket Comics was already using Managed Comics. I was like, that name seems really familiar. Oh my gosh! So I went in and visited these guys. I don't know, did I? Yeah, I showed a couple little page shots inside. Really, really wonderful store. Really like super stocked on toys, uh, well stocked on manga, comics. You can see all the toys kind of on the top shelf. What I didn't show is that they've got an entire second half of the store that's all dedicated to vintage toys and vintage comics. So they had like original Star Wars stuff, original Motu things. Like it was really cool on that side of the fence too. Plus some higher end kind of Japanese toys and stuff, which was really neat to see. So yeah, this is definitely a great shop in Kalamazoo. There's actually two really wonderful shops, and I'll talk about the other one on my way at the end of this because I hit one on the way out of Chicago as well, and yeah, I was really really impressed by it. Then this is the Motley Crew that went and saw AEW Dynamite or AEW Collision on Saturday night, which was a lot of fun. I did just some, standard tourist things in Chicago. I love that city. I think I've been a half dozen times now. So visiting the Bean is always on the bucket list of things to do in Chicago. I was only probably 2 blocks away. I like to stay in the loop when I'm down there just because I'm familiar with all the stuff around there. So it becomes my little home away from home. Not too far from River North, which is where there's some great restaurants and stuff. And that's actually where the Challengers guys and I had dinner on the Tuesday night before I left. And I also had lunch at, I think it's called the Beef, but it's not called the Beef. It's Mr. Beef, which is the shop that the bear is inspired by. If you've seen the Hulu or in our case up in Canada, Disney Plus series, The Bear. Yeah, it was inspired by there. And man, like they shoot the exteriors there, so you can really tell that. But interior, they've kind of replicated a lot of that too. Up next is Challengers. I don't think I have any interior shots of Challengers, but you saw in the video that there's some great shots of video of Challengers. They have like kind of a annex that's called Sidekicks, which is where all their kids stuff is. And when I walked in there on the Sunday, it was so cool because I don't think I've seen too many comic stores with as many kids as I saw in there, and parents were coming up with just stacks of stuff. So really cool to see. Challenge is a super long store, and it's fairly shallow. It's probably 15, 20 feet deep, but it goes the equivalent of what I would say is probably 3 storefronts wide. Really, really cool shop. And just the guys, Dallin and Patrick, do such a good job with all their signage and everything's red inside of the store. So it just looks really, really like clean and inviting. They have big, huge monitors with the list of what's on sale this week. There's a nice little ad for Managed Comics on there. So yeah, definitely give Challengers a shot if you're in the Chicago area for sure. Of course, graham crackers is ubiquitous. There are many graham crackers in Chicago. I think there's, I want to say 6 or 7. I think there's 14 locations altogether, with the vast majority of them being in Chicago. Maybe 11. I don't know. It's a lot. Yeah, they have their own kind of IT team and way of doing things. So they're not Managed Comics clients, for the record. Yeah, and graham crackers shops are good shops. They're full of stuff. If you're looking for new comics, it's probably a great location to go to because they have just like reams and reams of new comics. And they're in kind of the ubiquitous places where you would expect. Like the Loop is pretty touristy, so there's a lot of kind of tourists. That said, this store in particular is pretty jammed with stuff. It's kind of night and day between Chicago's and Graham Crackers, and both Dal and Patrick worked at Graham Crackers at one point in time, and you can tell that they were influenced in the opposite way, to not overload their store with stock, not to go super deep with a lot of stuff that just stays on the shelf. And yeah, it's definitely a different type of store for sure. Gmark Comics, I popped in on the Sunday, I believe it was. Nice little clean store, fairly small. There was a kind of a gaming area at the back that had a bunch of people at. And yeah, there's a lot of comics. They have a fair amount of back issues. I kind of flipped through those a little bit. It didn't really take any interior pictures, and I kind of regret not taking as many interior pictures, because I think it's fun to see kind of how different comic stores look in different towns. Zombie Unicorn, who is also a managed comics store, great little shop, very small and really like full of stuff. Like they got a good back issue selection in the center, got a bunch of wall books, a lot of slab stuff on the walls, great action figure section, and yeah, I got a Zombie Unicorn T-shirt out of the meeting of I got to meet Ron, and we had some great conversations about Managed Comics and the Managed Comics POS order helper, and how to kind of get the most out of that. So yeah, there's some follow up I need to do with Ron, and I definitely will. Ron, if you're listening to this, I look forward to talking to you when I get back from vacation. Dark Tower Books and Collectibles, which was just down the street from Alley Cat Comics, which I'm pretty sure I have Alley Cat coming up next. Yeah, Dark Tower was a cool shop. A lot of trades, tons of back issues in the center of the store. A good selection of kind of new comics on the walls, and yeah, it was a cool store to go into. I wanted to chat with the owner, but unfortunately, he was on vacation when I was there. So I will definitely be following up with Dark Tower, because I think they could benefit a lot from Managed Comics. There's Alley Cat. Alley Cat was a cool shop. It is down this alley, and this alley just gives it a real speakeasy vibe. And yeah, I really loved the shop. They had these great wooden drawers for all their back issues, tons of back issues, a lot of new stuff. They had like kind of a little tent out front that had a like an awning on it, and I grabbed a Skyborn hardcover there because it was like super cheap. So yeah, it was a really cool shop, and I really enjoyed popping in there. Again, another shop that I got to get back to contacting and let them know that they need to use some Managed Comics. Chicago Comics, my biggest regret, it was a Tuesday and it was really, really busy in there, and I didn't have time to record kind of what was going on. Great store. It's fairly large and has that real kind of old school bookstore feel to it. I really enjoyed kind of wandering around inside of it. I got to talk with the owners, and they are in the process of converting from, I think they were on Comic Suite, over to Managed Comics and Shopify. So yeah, they'll be chatting with me in the future about. I think their plan is kind of August to get fully on board with it. So really looking forward to helping them out with that. And then after leaving Chicago, I went to Fanfare in Kalamazoo, Michigan. This was an amazingly huge store. I wish I had a couple of pictures, because I did take a couple of pictures of the inside. You can see my massive hole in my head from a procedure I had done last month. Yeah, so Fanfare is a big store, and apparently they're moving across, and it may have already happened. They're moving kind of across the street to a new location that is supposed to be just about as big. So yeah, I'll definitely have to swing back into Kalamazoo and check that out in the future. And yeah, I'm going to talk to them once they've kind of relocated to their new shop. And then finally, I visited Vault of Midnight in Ann Arbor. The Vault of Midnight store in Detroit is one of my favorite shops, just because it's so nicely like decorated, and they've just done such a great job with all their fixtures and everything. The Ann Arbor store was really similar. It has the Detroit store has a really polished look, and I think this one has a slightly more fun, like more comic-y influenced look, and it was great as well. So I really want to convince the Vault of Midnight folks to get on board with Managed Comics, but with their multi-locations, they're obviously going to need our multi-location functioning, which is coming later this year. So yeah, that's going to do it with all of our awesome Chicago trip, and it was so inspiring for me. It's so great to get out and talk to our stores, and get to hear what your customers think, hear what you think, hear the things that you'd like us to do better, and the things that you don't care about are always good too. So I really, really appreciate getting out and seeing you guys. I had a great conversation with Dal and Patrick with it, which if you listen to Challengers, which is in the description below, Contested Challengers, we had an entire episode just all about Managed Comics and me. And yeah, it was cool because I went down my secret origin of Managed Comics and how it got started, how we decided to go all in on it in 2020, and how this is like it's been the only thing that I've done for the last 3 years, which is very different than previously. It was my side project for a long time, and before that, it's been something that has been in the back of my mind as a part of another business for years. So check that out, and yeah, hope you enjoy it. So I am just wrapping up my vacation as you read this or watch this or listen to this. You will see me again on Monday. In the meantime, I've probably responded to your help tickets anyway because I'm sick like that. But in the meantime and in between times, keep managing those comics, and we will see you next week.